All right, guys, welcome back to the Growth Podcast, Behind the Growth. And today I actually have one of my partners on the show, Frank, and I'm going to let him introduce himself. And then we're just going to have an honest conversation, probably around a lot of customer success, because we both value a lot of our customers right now. But yeah, sit down, strap in,
Yeah.
and Frank, welcome.
So Frank, if somebody doesn't know me, I've been in software for over a decade. So you can call me a software guy, but predominantly in all go-to-market kind of functions, including customer success, which is why, I understand customer success and why it's important and how you look at this and why it, sort of pays dividends just long-term. And great customer success, leads to great outcomes. But a lot of folks don't know how to do customer success really well. And so then I transitioned actually from customer success over to sales. And my last gig I was a VP sales, and so that was like 3 years ago. This is when I started Salesforge. I realized, damn, the only way to scale pipe is more bodies. That was, the main sort of, lever in target attainment in terms of pipeline attainment, and coverage and in revenue results, right? So I had 50 sales reps, a lot of sales reps. I was the big VP sales, whatever. And then I thought to myself, damn, I could achieve a lot with just, maybe half the people, or whatever. And then today I have a sales team of 5 people that produce a ton more pipeline than my old team of 50. So my old team of 50 maybe did about 300 demos a month, which is a similar velocity, similar market dynamics, etc. Also selling to agencies, etc. And today my sales team of 5, we do over 500 demos a month. So a lot of things have changed massively with GPT, whatever you name it, etc. And I think the type of customers you work, and so a lot of things have changed from like technology and blah blah blah. But ultimately, yeah. So we scaled up the company across multiple products, all to do with generating pipeline. So we decided to focus just on what we call the execution part. So executing really well cold email, and that means email infrastructure, sending whatever. We added last year LinkedIn to also do programmatic LinkedIn outreach. The belief is that you can scale up email and you can also scale up LinkedIn quite nicely. So what that means is, in our case, it's like I have 30 profiles, LinkedIn profiles spinning there with about 500 mailbox and just have one workspace of one single individual in the company. And then next we're going to add a dialer. We're going to do some inbound stuff, etc. So the idea is, going up market a bit, getting those guys in and then giving some hard time to like legacy softwares out there that, do still seat-based pricing. They make hundreds of millions of dollars. And I believe those softwares will sort of contract or die out versus the new gen softwares like us, Clay, and a bunch of other softwares that believe in sort of lean and mean, it seems, that believe in, increasing outputs through a software, through AI agents, Claude, code, whatever's trending today. But I think part of the way how you, succeed and grow is having sort of, strong partners in crime, as you grow and you grow together. That's the belief, right? It's not like, hey, here's me and here's my partner and then we do other things, but like you really want to grow together. Like that's the belief. And there's multiple ways how you can sort of look at it, but customer success and support naturally is one of the things that people do, people look at it differently, let's go that way, but there's so much that goes into that. And you can justify, you need to also know how to justify, let's call the ROI of spending more time with Spencer or doing XYZ for Spencer. And yes, it doesn't, generate as anything, but that's not how you look at building, let's call it a great brand, etc. And there's a bunch of examples where this has panned out really well. So you can take an example like HubSpot or Salesforge partners and a bunch of other. And guess what? HubSpot today makes over $100 million in ARR, which is purely through partners. And that's an example of, let's call it partner-led growth or whatever. There's a lot that goes into that. But to do this really well from the kind of, ground up, kind of starting in the early days, you need these partners. And we naturally see a bunch of evidence out there, or like Clay, that does kind of similar thing. So you see a bunch of examples, and that's one of the ways to actually go to market. It's like together with other people, or what I call the friends of the forge, and that's it. So yeah, little intro on me. We do a bunch of products, 7 products all together. There's like 6 products in total. And then the pinnacle product is like Agent Frank. So we're going to build a bunch more products and make the agent better. Typically, we sell to a bunch of sales teams. We work with a lot of agencies. And these are really the 2 sort of main segments and how we prioritize sort of what we want to also build. So then naturally, when it comes to customer success, we think from customer success naturally also from customer success for the agency segment, go-to-market agency, stuff like that. And there's different types of agencies in there and versus, going direct, and company doesn't necessarily want to work with agencies, right? So how do you build features and so on and so forth? So I know it was a bit long-winded, but this is a bit of a kind of story on me, company, and kind of how we look at the space.
So I think what prompted us to have this conversation is because over Christmas, I was losing my brains with a client and I pinged our Slack channel. And I've told you this privately, Frank, and anybody else that's listening. Frank and his team are awesome with customer success. And like, granted, we are partners and everything, and we grow together. Actually, we use their software in house, so shout out to the Forges. But there's a reason why I do it, and it's because of the success. It's like because of the customer service. And I sent you the very private message about this. It's like if we didn't have your team, and I'm left stranded with an enterprise client that's sending X thousand number of emails or needs to integrate something over this break or migrate their mailboxes in bulk, like I think it was like 500 or 700 mailboxes that we had to migrate over, and it was over Christmas. Like your team hopped right in. It's like you don't really get that level of care and that level of like velocity with a lot of companies. And for me, we have a very agile team. It's just the two of us right now at Growth Alliance. And like for you guys, like we have a channel of like 16 people in our thread. Like for me, that's when I was like, you guys are doing a good job. And I think like when I look at like other partners, when I look for SaaS tools, including the Forges, I know that I can talk to you or somebody like Niels, right? And I look for the same thing when I go to serve my clients. If they need somebody to depend on, the level of success from a service-based industry, in the service-based industry from our side is we need to get this shit done now. We need to make sure that they feel taken care of, like we're actually, really servicing them. Of course, not all fires are fires at the end of the day. Like I've made some product requests. People have given me service requests and things of this sort. But I think the way that you are handling a relationship at the end of the day defines LTV or the ROI, right? I like going back to what you said. So I'm curious, like how you guys select your partners at the Forges, what kind of problems you guys have solved, and is there specific training or are there specific clients or partners or different types of people that you guys look for? Not us included.
I think on one hand, you're looking for generally partners that think outside the box. I think things are changing very fast in the space, and they will keep on changing, right? So keeping up to date with all the trends and everything that's happening in the space is like super important. So you're also looking for partners that ultimately push boundaries, right? In different areas, right? There's so many different areas of go-to-market. You can kind of dive deep into like enterprise kind of sales environments, to high velocity, to clay tables. So there's so much that goes on. But we're not looking at what we call more let's call the old school partners, old school people, and we definitely don't look at those companies. We don't target them because we are not here to transform these businesses, right? So we're looking for people that understand let's call it the cloud call wave and whatever the next wave is, and they're riding the wave, and we're all riding the wave, whatever the wave is, the clay wave, whatever. So you need these people that think outside the box, because what we are also building is also sort of outside the box and trying to predict where the future is headed and how to build this. And you want to build like cool software that'll make your life easier, and for your customers also life easier, right? So that's why choosing the right partners, also like mentality, is very important. Then naturally also the partners and where they are in the world. We know that most of our revenue will come, it's for every sales technology company, is US, right? So let's just assume, if you're like Salesforce or HubSpot or us, etc., it's very typical of like 50 to 80% of revenue is US, right? So knowing how to service customers in the US is super important, right? So that's how we also look at geographies. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world, your ability to service the US market, to either send emails or understand how to write emails or like whatever that is, right? So even orchestrate everything for the US audience, that's non-negotiable sort of. And so there's definitely a struggle there with a lot of people that I see. And so it's also your kind of the know-how and your experience, and it's also when we look at the partners, other tooling that they use. So we do naturally see a lot of similarity with a lot of sort of tools that are adjacent to us, like Clay, right? So let's say I'm looking for people that use Clay today, right? Because if they use Clay, we believe the number one sequencer in Clay very soon to become will be Salesforge. And we have some reasons why that's the case. So we're looking for let's call it the top Clay people, and for them to join us. Naturally, you can't have 100% of market joining you, and it's fine. But yeah, it's also a lot more fun to work with a specific type of partners. You grab a beer with Spencer or with this and that person. With the more you're aligned in terms of kind of pushing the boundaries on go to market, the more you fun and the more fun you have together. But also then that the type of customers maybe that Spencer or other people just work with together are also aligned with your software, right? And then the example that you mentioned, yeah. So something happens over Christmas, it doesn't matter, during other time of the year, that for that client, it's most likely urgent, right? So the client's selling an agency. guys, this is urgent, right? So internally we understand that you need to put urgency on this. And naturally, because somebody's a partner, you get the VIP treatment ultimately, right? So that means if it is urgent, we will make sure it's urgent, also internally for us. So yeah, that also means that we deprioritize some of the plans, and so we don't do that, and we look after Spencer, right? So whatever that means, however many hours or days it takes, because it's important for Spencer, because if that's important for this partner, then it's important for the customer. Like, happy days, everybody's happier, so you need to also know how to deprioritize some of the things that we thought we're gonna do, but we're not gonna do them because something happened, whatever that is. So we always think that every day shit may hit the fan. So then you need to plow bodies into this, or automation, so AI agents, right? So not everything has to be solved through more support, more bodies, but ultimately problems need to be solved, and they have to be solved. If you're working with Series A companies, B companies, right? They have targets. They need to have campaigns running in January, whatever that is, right? So that people have targets. So that means everybody's under pressure, right? So you may not be a VC-backed company, but guess what? The customers that you're working with are VC-backed. They have targets. VCs are bringing down the necks. They have the budgets. They want to do stuff. They want to do it at scale. They want to do it. They want to be aggressive, and you just need to be, on that sort of, wave with the customer. Even though we don't speak to the customer, it's fine. I think this is what I like about the space. Why I also chose to work in this space. It's so dynamic, and you don't know what's going to happen every day, but something is happening every day. Somebody needs help, something happens. So that's also why it's exciting. If the client was serviced really well and we helped out, then it impacts retention naturally for the agency and for the partner. The client maybe is happy and wants to expand to other services, right? It doesn't mean, we will generate more revenue, but like the way that I would say expansion just generally works on the software side is that if the agency did a good job, right, and we supported them doing a good job, the agency makes more money from the customer, happy days. And then maybe we'll also expand, organically revenue as a result, right? So that's how you can think about it. I think that's what customer success looks like also when working with, any form of agencies, freelancers, subject matter experts, in the field. That's just one of the ways, just purely from a kind of account management standpoint. I think there's other ways, naturally, you look at success and kind of other bits that you want to be doing with partners. So.
How are you like prioritizing? Because for me, we have a large handful of clients, I would say right now. We have 6, we're going to go down to 5, and we're probably going to sign 2 more actually. So come out positive. I mean, it's still early in the year, but knowing how to prioritize, at least on my side, exactly what you just said, but it's flipped. It's like, hey, what is actually urgent? Because if everything is urgent, nothing is urgent, right? And this is like the operations side of me. I'd be curious on how you prioritize your partners versus your direct clients, because I know you guys have the personnel. I think I have everybody in your team in one channel, but when our clients come to us, everybody has their own communication channel. Every single request gets routed directly to our ClickUp environment, but it's a matter of like, does this need to be happening today? And I think what we do to try to minimize those urgencies is to always have a plan of action or a list of like jobs to be done for our clients. So we get in a team meeting with them, we stay async, be like, hey, this is what we're doing this week. We don't really let them have a chance to pull anything up under us. Of course, things happen, things hit the fan. If it's like, hey, we need this prep tomorrow, we're going to the event. Okay, God, right? Or, like we should have known about that. That's our failure to prepare. I think in general, the less reactive you have to be to different things, the better. How do you guys prioritize treating your clients versus your customers? I know as like a SaaS tool, you're the face of the business, but there's also
I mean, the
tons
way
of
I would look
personnel.
at it is like, I have this acronym ABS, which means always be shipping, always be sending, and always be selling. Specifically with, with partners, if campaigns are not running, if nothing's happening in the software, we have a problem. So that is what I call the category 1 problem, like nothing is running, essentially, or where if the machine is running, that's the most important thing, and we keep sending more outreach, or our systems is actually running, but when they don't run and something's blocking us, right? We want to solve that so the machine keeps, keeps on running. So the other way to look at it is partner 1 mentions a particular problem, or there's a feature request or whatever, and it can help other customers also. That's another way to look at it, because somebody may say, oh, things don't work in your Prime box, or they don't work on infrastructure front, but it only applies to that one specific partner. It doesn't apply to everybody else, right? This is where, try and prioritize, because ultimately, we have 7 products and engineers work across 7 products, and you're just trying to understand what moves the needle the most. But at the same time, if it's like a critical bug, what we call P0, is this a P0? If this is a P0, then all hands on deck. And this is also why in every partner channel, there's me in the channel, there's the CTO, There's a bunch of engineers, support people, because we do support 24/5, and you don't know when Spencer's going to ping you, whether he's going to ping you at 8 a.m., at midnight, or 3 a.m. Have no clue. So that's why there's support people from different time zones tuning in. So that I don't wake up and I haven't answered to Spencer like for some time. Maybe Spencer wants to work through the night or whatever. You just don't know. So there's partners all around the world. The stuff that you deprioritize is typically because it applies that to just one user, and it cannot be replicated, or highly unlikely it can be replicated to any other customers or enough customers. But it has to align ultimately to is the engine running? If not, we need to fix it. If a customer requests something that's ruins relationship with the customer, maybe, or with many of their customers, that's also a priority. So kind of, let's call it workflow related stuff. But there's also a bunch of kind of features that people would love to have because they've seen it in another software, and suddenly, hey, Frank, I saw that in Outreach. It was this feature. Could you build that, please? So we have this one also important partner that's coming on board and says, Frank, listen, I'm going to be transitioning hundreds of customers from Outreach over to you, but we need these 15 items. Damn, that's a lot of items to be shipping. And you're like, what to do, and versus somebody else says something else, right? So yes, let's call it the product board is like massive, thousands of features and requests, and all that goes into Jira and needs to get prioritized, etc. And then you look at the feature requests versus bugs, right? How many bugs you have, and you can't have like a realistic bugless software. There will be always some form of a bug, but like how many bugs is acceptable to have in the software, right? So right now, bug reduction is quite high priority, and once it's sort of, let's call it, stabilized, so you have not that many bugs, then you plow ahead all the engineers that we have into net new feature production. But we also understand that any company that we work with, customers get really excited, not just partners, but also, direct customers also get excited by when there's new stuff coming out. So you have to sort of balance this, which, we're fixing bugs versus we're shipping new features. And the, majority of customers don't see the bugs. So they want just more features. And if the features don't come out, you feel like this software is not the engineers don't do anything. And with some softwares, maybe that's the case, there's not much being shipped, but we try and always just push. Every month we try and release something that more advanced API or white label, whatever that is, right? And so making sure that the partners then can go to their customers and say, hey, we could launch this, is also important. There needs to be that sort of shipping velocity. So it feels like there's something new, right? And the partners could either improve campaigns or improve campaigns, or either visually or actually in the results, like better replies, etc., that makes them look good. So you kind of think about how can we make agencies look good as well in front of the customers. So we will build some of the features only for the agencies to ensure that they look much better with us than any other software vendor on the planet as well. So you're also thinking of these, what I call killer features. What is a killer feature that I could build that Spencer and other people will like and will help them to acquire customers better than any other agency in the market? That's also how you think about stuff. So we can take an example. Let's say there's a lot of clay agencies in the market, right? There's thousands of them, and there's more coming up, and the more people get trained, right? So you're competing against these other clay agencies, but they all use sort of different softwares and what we call the Android experience. They're stitching up different sort of softwares from different vendors. They're trying to put this together. Naturally, there's overhead with that, right? And what I'm trying to do is simplify the life for people like Spencer and others, so that the onboarding maybe is faster or it's more seamless, things just flow, etc. So kind of from a product standpoint, the other things that you're also trying to do is make your partners look as good as you can as well in front of their own customers on LinkedIn or anywhere else, even on the website. The other way you'll make people look good is, I just mentioned, for example, you, Spencer, in a random WhatsApp community where somebody said, hey, I'm looking for this and that, right? And then the one thing that you do is just make people just look good. You say, this is the guy.
The guy actually texted me on LinkedIn, and I was like, oh, like, where are you connecting us from? And it's like, oh, Frank just mentioned you in a WhatsApp group. And I was like, okay, cool. And it was like today. And it's, I meant to mention that.
But that's all you need to do. So making partners look good. There's not just something that you say in your website, we make it look good, but you actually proactively make them look good.
But actually, the guy did text me literally today, so it was really funny. He's like, oh, Frank dropped your name in WhatsApp. Okay, cool. But I think where I see it, I think it goes both ways, right? It's like when I look for partners, it's like not just a win-win scenario for like me and you, but it actually has to be a win-win-win scenario. And this is like what I had mentioned to you, like when we had started talking very many months ago at this point in time. It was like, how does the person that's benefiting from both of us coming together in our strong suits, how do they benefit by having us together on one team? so that we can kind of like 2v1 them and everybody wins, right? Like everybody needs to feel like they're winning when they use Salesforge or when they're working with Spencer and Growth Alliance. Like, what value do they get? They get all of this tool access, they get all of this support, right? And they get strategy and they get implementation, and they're driving the bus. Or how do we phrase that in a specific way so that they feel like they're winning? And I think this is the basis for a good partnership, at least from my side. And I have to make you guys look good. I mean, I don't have to, but I should, right? But like, we just put up a case study, and I'm super proud of that case study that I wrote with you guys, because it really does encapsulate what we do together. And I think people have seen it and they're like, what do you think? You're just the guy. Somebody texted me like, you're just the guy I wanted to ask about, like, how does this compare to this tool on the market? We're using a lot of Instantly, we're using a lot of Smart Lead, Outreach, whatever it's going to be. Like, hey, these are the pros, these are the cons, this is like how I use it. Your scenario might be a little bit different. Like, let's hop on a call, I'll give you a demo. And it's like, I have a demo with a guy on Friday, which is pretty nice. But yeah, I think we grow together. And I think everybody's going to have their strong suit in space.
Yeah, exactly. So it doesn't matter whether it happens in WhatsApp or LinkedIn, etc. There's other things we do also, what we call programmatically, in terms of looking people good. And we will not tell actually the partners what we do behind the scenes. All we expect is that suddenly the partner either gets a new lead or something good happens to them. What we want naturally the partners to think, it probably came from the Forge. That's all we want them to think, It doesn't have to be whatever attribution or whatever, but because, we look at partners as an extended team, and that's how you have to, like, I typically use this word. Once we're in the Slack channel, we are your extended team, and it means multiple things, like proactively checking in, pinging them on Slack or whatever, putting in different people, or even internally discussing what would Spencer think about this, or what would the other partners think about this, So having proactive conversations, and there's actually more things coming this year. So we have this, what we call the 100 bacon bets for the year. So within that document, there's 100 sort of, let's call it initiatives, maybe simple to simplify, but literally it's a spreadsheet. The spreadsheet, this is what we're going to do this year. And these are either inputs or outputs that we need to get to have a smashing year. And under that is you have customer success, right? Because you treat customer success seriously, but what does that mean, right? So naturally you can choose ChatGPT, what could mean customer success for an agency, etc. But like, you need to be proactive, and you kind of need to, kind of go at it. And people that have been maybe in software customer success maybe for a long time, they know that it's something you want to do as early as you can. Doesn't matter how small or big you are, but like you do it and you do it really well. You don't want to be like some companies, I'm not going to mention them, but I paid a lot of money to some companies in the past, also as a VP sales, and they never reached out to me. Never. Not even single. The only email I got is your renewal is coming up from a CSM. And that's all. And I was paying them a lot of money. I was like a mid-market customer.
I hate this. I hate this. And I was just thinking about this when I was walking off of the tram today. I was like, dude, I just like pay a ton of money for a tool and I don't even hear anything until your subscription is going to expire. Some partners in the market do that. And I'm like, well, this doesn't like really serve me. Great. It's a fucking transactional marketplace, right? Like, you're going to take my money. I'm going to get your tool, and that's going to be the end of it. Like, once I sign up, you should take me out of your lifecycle flows. Like, I understand like how it works on the revenue operations side, but it doesn't lend itself well to all those things.
It's not about revenue. It's about, there's a thing called service. Right?
There's a thing called good service. Yeah.
Yes. But just try do service, It's not about good service. Like, just do some service. There's like no service at all, So what's the point of customer success? There's a service component. You have to service customers. It's a thing. Yes, it's a cost. It's a thing. And you have to think about it. Just don't assume this revenue is there forever. Just assume that your customer could leave you tomorrow, because that's how, bad the churn is. It's just generally in the space for everybody. It doesn't matter your agency, etc. If you don't provide great service, people just leave you. Okay, there's other 100 solutions in the market, right? So one thing that we try to kind of naturally compete in the market, and there's a lot of softwares don't think about, is like great service. That means even on chat support, like we have a 2-minute SLA, we don't do AI agents on chat support because we believe in service. And we don't believe that the AI solves the stuff on the support. I could put an AI agent into the Slack channel with Spencer, but I didn't, because I believe in support. And guess what? I have a partner, a vendor, where we pay them actually a lot of money. Guess what they did? They put a bot into Slack. And it's not working. I can see what they're trying to do. But that's not, you're not getting to the outcome. It's not like it's solving my problem. And the problem is like there's a bug or whatever, right? And the bot cannot solve that. In a lot of cases, right?
I see that a lot. Yeah, I see that a lot. I mean, like, not to crap on anybody in particular, but I'll mention a few customer success problems that I've had lately. I mean, Clay, HubSpot, that those are the big two right now. I mean, they're giants in the space, right?
Yeah.
If I'm gonna make a workflow and that shit's not working, or like with Riverside, like we're recording on Riverside right now, and sometimes the theme doesn't update all the way, or sometimes the brand doesn't update all the way, right? I could tell when something is generated by like AI, it's referencing their API documentation or whatever, and I'm like, guys, I need a human on this. And
I
then
mean,
like
at the end of the
immediately
day,
they'll write back. That's
mm,
fine. Like I just need to have an option because I understand like it is costly to have customer success. For me, I'm in every channel with all of my customers. That is my promise to all of my clients is like you have 24, not 24/5 access to me, but like you have 24/5 access to me like all the time. And if I can't get to you, Jonathan will get to you. And if we can't get to you, then maybe my guy in Singapore will get to you, right? You have us. Like we are part of your team and we don't want to be looked at as a vendor. We want to be looked at as a partner. And that's how I try to position is like we are part of your team.
and I'll give you an example. I have another partner, and they have an issue with the user, but the user is reaching out to me. Something to do with the partner. So we are helping the user without even letting the partner know. We're just going to assist them, And again, this is an example of kind of being part of the extended team. We know that this is a user of a partner, so we'll service them so they have a great time with the partner. We don't want this user to have a bad time with our software or with the partner. So that's let's call the adjacent support. And to mention, I think when I think about success or customer success, I think about customer success even before you became a customer, actually, even before you pay me anything. So I'll give you an example. So we do 500 plus demos, right, on a monthly basis. So with a ton of people we speak to, et cetera, around the world. And so what happens is, you sit down with the business, and there's multiple businesses or on different industries, etc. But they all need pipe, right? So typical problem. And you realize that what is the way to generate that pipe? And sometimes, they have a team and they have a RevOps and everything. And they just need to buy the software and off you go, happy days, right? And here you go, right? So while other businesses, they have such a tricky ICP, and this is where I mentioned to you, in one of the calls, literally last week, such a tricky ICP, and I said, listen, you have such a tricky ICP in the UK that you're not going to be able to put this into a list from our data product or even yourself because you don't have the competence for this. Onboarding on my software makes no sense. Using my AI agent also makes no sense. What makes sense is here's a partner that will actually be able to solve your problem, and you should speak to them. And you're essentially disqualifying people. But still, at the end of the day, that business needs pipeline, needs customers, etc. The way I think about how can you generate revenue today is three paths. You do it yourself. You have a team. You have some agents running. There's another way with agentic layer, and then the third layer is the agency layer. And I always believe if you're the smartest business in the world, whatever us or other businesses, you're always going to use the three layers to maximize pipeline generation. You don't have to go one of the paths, but if you have budget constraints, yes, maybe you choose one of them, and then you kind of keep expanding the layers. But there are some customers where unless they're going to use Spencer or something similar, like they're going to fail. And what you want to make sure is that you don't fail. Like you want to avoid churn before you become a customer, right? So I rather give this customer to a partner, and then the problem will be solved. The customer will get meetings and will actually generate pipe, and they'll be happy. And it's the triple win, right? So that means Spencer goes ahead, services them, charges them a fuck ton of money, which is great because, these guys, they don't know what they're doing. If they would want to hire a GTM engineer in-house, it would be way too expensive. Good luck finding a good one as well. So there's multiple advantages, and I explain people the advantages of working with a partner over anything else, because at the end of the day, they need to be successful. And I would say price or whatever, how expensive is all relative, depending on the success. But if there's no success, I mean, you're going to fail, you're going to churn, and you don't want that to happen, right?
I think it's important, even when I'm like, as a product designer and like a product tester and stuff like this, like, I'm very deeply ingrained with your CTO and like going through the features, and we do like the monthly calls and going like stuff. It's like, I love watching that happen. Like I love helping to build that product and shape it. For me, like when I just got off the phone with another, maybe prospect or something like this. And he's like, well, what are the issues that you guys are seeing in the market in case we send you people with Salesforce or HubSpot? And I just said, I was like, well, listen, there's no unification, XYZ. There's the problems I'm seeing in the market, talking to all of my other partners because they see everything else as well. And I do think that setting the right solution is very, very hard unless you have that strategy. And of course, like that strategy has to match your situation. If there's no end goal in sight, then you're kind of much fucked from the very beginning. So like, for instance, not everybody needs the Forges. Not everybody needs Spencer. Not everybody needs Agent Frank. But in very specific scenarios, all three of those match up. And I think that's when you go for the kill together, right? It's like win, win, win. But I think it comes down to exactly what you just said. And I actually, I wrote an
So they
article and
still have the same
they they
problem
still
as
have
you
this.
said,
They
like,
still have the same problem. It's just a matter of like, hey, where's your marketing mix? Where's how does your attribution work? This is the difference between going from like 0 to 1, which is like what I used to do with a lot of different startups, versus going from like 1 to 10. Going from 1 to 10, you've already have a maybe have a proven motion. Going from 10 to 100 is a lot easier than going from 0 to 1, in my professional opinion. You already have the playbooks, you already have the case studies, you already have the proven success, you already have the velocity. Just a matter of scaling the system and testing.
similar how what happened with Agent Frank, back in the early days when we launched it, we were onboarding all customers, and naturally a lot of them churned, just like every other AI SDR solution, right? So, but what we were generating were the learnings, when does a AI agent work, when it doesn't work. And, there's a bunch of customers for whom it doesn't work. Like let's say we don't really specialize, let's call it, in enterprise sales, like small TAMs, etc. That's where you can use a bunch of other cool tools like Cargo and whatever that, Spencer can service. And so like, when somebody says, Frank, why should I use you? Like, you should use me or whatever for something like this, and then this for something like that. Like, and the customer being able to tell this to a customer, doesn't matter you're an agency or not an agency, like, they will be very thankful to you. And in a way that
Mhm.
if you're going to say, sorry, you're not qualified, and you're just going to provide like recommendation to another software, guess what will happen? They'll introduce you maybe to other friends or whatever, right? The reciprocity kicks in, They'll introduce you to friends, or maybe he's going to change his job, which happens. People change jobs very frequently. He's going to become again maybe a VP sales or whatever in another company, and he'll remember, damn, I spoke to Spencer. He said, we're not a fit, but I remember he was really a great guy. And guess what will happen after a year? They'll be back and they'll buy stuff. So think of like things like long term. And I know a lot of people, and I'm speaking literally to one business yesterday in the US, and the guy got burned. He said, Frank, I spent 30K on this system, and I am not a believer in anything anymore. And unless we can work on a CPA model where you generate me demo and I pay you X, I'm not buying any of your software, because he was massively burnt,
Mm.
massively burnt. And so I don't want to build brand around us or anybody to use burning customers. If there is a risk involved, so like, how we manage, some of the relationships. Well, let's say we have Agent Frank, we have this sort of traffic light system. You're like a green, that means ICP, yes. So very good, let's go ahead, right? We've seen very little risk. Then there's some risk, you're going to be in the yellow zone. And then there is the red zone, you are not a fit. And you're
Mhm.
trying to tell the customer, you're trying to tell them, do not buy. But if they still want to buy, like we told you, not to do it, but at least you're being upfront with the customer and the risks. So you're not burning your brand, because guess what? They're going to go on, Trustpilot, G2, and going to say, a lot of nasty stuff about you. And these reviews will be there for years and years and years. So try and avoid them as early as you can. Don't try and onboard every possible customer, because good customers lead to other good customers, right? So yeah.
I think, yeah, and I think it's about how much risk you're willing to take. And, I was just speaking to somebody about this yesterday. It's like, listen, I can say yes to everybody that wants to work with us, but I'm not gonna be the perfect fit, right? Like, I just spent a long time doing qualification. Like, I sell a service, I sell myself. It's gonna get clipped and put somewhere online. It's just a matter of like, hey, like, I have my reputation to uphold, and I'd rather not take $10,000 to keep my reputation, right? Like, if you're not a perfect fit, it's not a perfect fit, right? If I'm not secure enough to be able to say, yes, I can actually help you achieve this goal or implement this strategy or get ROI. And now it comes down to like data hygiene and ROI nowadays for the metrics that we try to get people. But if I'm not confident in that, then how can you be confident in me? And that's what I tell people when I disqualify them. It's like, Lynn, actually, based on your ideal customer profile, I'm not secure that email marketing would be the best attribution channel for you. I have an ads partner. I have an organic marketing partner. I'm going to connect you two by email, or the three of you guys by email. If you decide to go a different way, I'm happy to work with you. But right now, it's a little bit too much risk for me.
Yeah, we kind of do similar. We even send, some of our prospects to competitors, and that's totally fine. And we think same thing maybe happens with competitors. We don't know whether they would send customers to us. But like, I'll give you an example where we're working with another company where we have an overlap in the ICP, but the user is not aware. Space essentially is again, AI SDR space. And there's two types of AI SDRs. One is the outbound AI SDR typically, and then the second one is the inbound AI SDR. So we do only outbound, at least for now. So we have a lot of people that come to us and say, yo, Frank, do you guys do inbound? Like, no, sorry. And you don't want to, and you have nowhere to send the customer to, So then you're like, what do you do? So we're like, okay, what are the, what we did is like, what are the top AI SDR, solutions for inbound? And then we see, okay, qualified. We see sales app, a few other solutions. Like, cool. We could send, folks to these guys. And then if these guys are gonna get, inquiries about outbound AI SDRs, they can send it to us. So then you can just partner up, that way. They're just like you're saying, some people, customer needs again pipeline, but you can't solve it, but it maybe can be solved through SEO, whatever, right? So, and you just expect that, that exchange of leads. So we have a bunch of leads coming from these partners, and we don't expect anything, not even the Slack, nothing like that. But what we're gonna see is when somebody signs up for a demo, the person says, "Where did you hear about us?" So our partner is SalesApe on that front, and we'll say SalesApe, or this guy from SalesApp told me to reach out to you, or I get an email sometimes. And that's exactly what we do. We just send it to them, and we don't inform them, nothing. We know that they know. And that's exactly how I think about, our partners. We just send it to them. I'm not going to go and inform today, hey, Spencer, I sent you a lead. I also don't want this sort of to be the sort of what's called hunting behavior that Spencer's going to be, oh, who is that? Who's that guy? Who was, inquiring about the services? So just try and do it organically as much as you can. I think, one is just to push nicely, people towards a partner's direction, or the other one is to, I'm going to call this building a funnel or a content engine. And our content is massive, generally. We have millions of pages. And guess what I do? When I build content, or I have a bunch of employees on the content front, those guys know that there's a guy named Spencer, right? So you're also trying to, make the partners, like I said, look good. Very important. If the partners look good, we look good, and vice versa, I think, right? So we're going to do that in multiple ways, from a webinar to podcast to content to the newsletter suddenly dropping in, to, and etc. So looking good is just, important to do, and doesn't matter who the partner is, but it just leads to overall more success and less failure, right? So this is what you're optimizing, right? So, and you just need to know what you're going to do and what you're not going to do. And I think we had some kind of even discussions today with another CEO that I was talking to, and I told him, hey, listen, I'm going to be building these forges and these things, etc. And I told him, listen, but I'm not going to build this thing. And I told him, I want you to build the thing. And there's reasons why we decided to go down that path. And I said, I want you to build this because it's not going to look good, or something's not going to work very well if I'm going to build this. And I'm going to fail if I'm going to do this. So let's figure out how we're going to make our customers successful from, again, day zero, before they even purchase, in a way that everybody's happy. Because, when I'm working with different people as well, I'm also thinking, how will it impact Spencer and the perception of Spencer and Spencer using software, my software. So these are other kind of things I'm thinking back on my head. Because the partners have to look good even in 5 and 10 years time. It's like, if you think about like Salesforce as a CRM or HubSpot, like you want to make sure these partners, like agencies, are there, or partners in crime are there like for a long, long time. You're making revenue together, but you always try and make them, look better and better over time. And you try and not make sort of product decisions or any other decisions in your business that may hurt the perception of these partners in any way, right? So that's also kind of something that I'm thinking back on my head about success. And part of the success is also product strategy success. So one of the things that you mentioned, yes, having the partners sort of dictating your product roadmap, right? Because I can give you an example. The CTO comes up to me, or the CPO comes up to me, and they ask me a bunch of questions. I'm like, I don't know. Can ask the partners, because ultimately, I've never run an agency in my life. How should I know some of the things that are happening in the world, and maybe some of the spaces that you're in with other agencies, etc. Like leveraging partners also in that way that benefits both. That's where I see a ton of success. So there's a term called a design partner, and a lot of people don't know what a design partner is. So just Google it. But like being a design partner to a software vendor benefits both parties, right? Because you can have an impact on that company and how the product should look like. So it makes your life easier, right? So you're much happier over time, right? So you want to provide that feedback. Yes, it takes a bit of time, but then the software is actually shaped to your requirements. And I'll give you an example. One of the reasons actually why I'm building Salesforge is because the legacy vendor that I used with my sales team of 50, did nothing with my feedback, like literally zero. I spoke to the CPO of that company, and I said all the things that need to happen to improve the conversion rate for our team. And like nothing was implemented, everything was ignored. And I was one of the largest customers of that company in Europe, and they would do nothing. And because I was not able to have any impact on the software, I was like, damn, I got to build my own software. So actually, this is one of the reasons why Salesforce exists, is because the other vendor decided to ignore my success of my sales team, me trying to improve my conversion rate. So as a result, then what happens is I was forced to hire more bodies and
Mm.
increase my CAC. So cost of customer acquisition. We all know what happens if you increase your CAC too much. There's layoffs happening, etc. Right? So it just doesn't work, right? So this is how I also think about my own experience when I was, I was doing customer success myself, or I was talking to other companies and I was close to the CPO or the product, and my feedback was ignored. And I don't want that to have for other people. And you wanted to avoid that. And so the other things actually, just to kind of maybe mention this, apart from me thinking about this, I also have to train my team also to think about in a similar fashion. I think this is where it's not a sort of challenge, right? So like, and kind of that passing this on to other people and the product team engineers and, et cetera, is also a tough thing. But I'll give you one practical thing that we do to make sure Spence is happy or partners are happy. So there's financial metrics naturally that every business have, right? MRR, growth of MRR, right? And profitability, blah, blah, blah. But one of the things is NRR. So net revenue retention, right? So retention plus expansion, super important. And if you're serious about a good product, great experience, then my take is that NRR should sit with product engineering, which is exactly the case with us. So last year we decided to tackle NRR and make sure NRR is like 110%, 20%, whatever. NRR will sit with product engineering because this is a product engineering led company. First and foremost, and sales led is like secondary. So even though we'd like to do 500 demos, that's like a hardcore sales assist on a PLG product. So, and then there's a trickle down effect, right? So then people then will become slightly more proactive, trying to figure out how to make, Spencer more successful, how to retain Spencer, how to expand. And so whatever the muscle is in the business, or whatever the motion is, so if it's a PLG motion, always just give them the financial KPI to that team so they can talk about it daily, in their stand-ups or whatever they have, right? So previous to that, is NRR as a KPI was owned by the go-to-market team. And it was just a bit odd that, success lies in product engineering and go-to-market team was, owning the KPI. So they're like, wait a minute, guys, there's a problem here. So we just punted the KPI over to product engineering, and a lot of great things are happening. I'll tell you that. So assigning KPIs is also important to success, but that's across the whole company, right? So you have to think about.
I know that we've been talking for quite a while. What in your mind, yeah, as a founder, as somebody that's gone through the motions of sales and product design and all of the motions, what is one piece of advice that you would give somebody that is running their own software business in a few sentences?
So I would say, probably the number one thing that all the Silicon Valley startups do, which is, if you're starting a company or you're like early days, whatever, just get all your customers into Slack. That's it. Keep your customers super close. I know it becomes, very difficult to manage. Like I have hundreds and hundreds of Slack channels, but in Slack, you can have up to 1,000 Slack connects, 1,000 Slack connects. So imagine if you keep all your customers like super close and you listen to them. Yes, they're whatever happens, they're not happy, whatever. By keeping your customers and your top partners close to your business, it will make you build the right stuff. And because people are hiding sometimes, with the intercom interface or whatever, some other interface. But if on a daily basis, you're always in Slack and your partners are in Slack, your customers are in Slack, the business will just grow faster, right? Because you'll build the right stuff with the right people. You'll see some patterns across the Slack, channels, etc. And things will just pan out. So a lot of businesses still don't do that. People are freak out. Like, Frank, me inviting customers, hundreds? I was like, yes, that's what you're going to do. Sure, for Spencer doesn't need hundreds of customers. He needs very few good customers, right? So, but like our business, because we're a PLG, low ticket business, we're going to have but that's a lot of input. So it's a good problem to have when you have a lot of input, a lot of feedback, but it will make the business build the right things, move faster, etc. And feedback is a gift. Just think of it this way, right? A lot of people freak out actually in other companies, like, damn, there's just so much feedback. They're just drowning in feedback. Just think of it as a gift and just know how to label it, structure it, prioritize it, revenue impact, NRR impact for the agencies as well, right? And stuff like that. Yeah, because another niche is you do not have a lot of feedback. Customers do not talk to you. It's not a thing. So be very thankful that somebody like Spencer or other people give you feedback daily. And whatever that is, like even like a little thing, people like me look at it and other people look at it. And the more Spencer keeps knocking on our doors or other people knocking on our doors and his customers on Spencer's door, and then Spencer comes to us and says, Frank, well, this customer is, telling us again, week in, week out, we should be doing this. And the more you're going to knock on the door of any company, the more likely that thing will happen. So that's how I think about also feedback is important. Treat it as a gift. Naturally, don't action on all the feedback, right? So whatever only moves the needle, where you see patterns and highest impact for everybody, that's what you do. And then also be mindful or be open about why you're not going to do particular things, you know?
And I think that what you just said is the icing on the top. I can give you as much feedback as possible, and I can give you as many suggestions as a design partner, as many suggestions as you guys can take, and I can write in the Slack channel every other day to you. But if I don't get an answer, it pisses me more off. Like if my query just doesn't get picked up, I get more pissed off, right? And I think like I know you guys are like for instance, like I know you guys provide timelines, but like that's not a priority right for us right now. If it becomes like a P1 or P0 priority, if it's game breaking,
Yeah.
we can reprioritize, but transparently, we're focusing on other bigger things. And like for me, I love that. I love the transparency of understanding what is going on and what's not going on so that I can go back to my clients and say, hey, like we're working on it. You put in a special request. And of course, that shows my end client that I'm very deeply ingrained in the shit that's going on behind the scenes,
Yeah.
right?
I'll give you an example of what we do from a customer success standpoint, also kind of, being transparent and proactive. Maybe proactive is one of the things that's very important to cover as well. So every month we're trying to think about how can we, let's take you as an example. Again, how can we reach out to Spencer once a month? Doesn't have to be frequent, but at least once a month to Spencer and provide something of value. And so that it doesn't look like in a way that it's not annoying to Spencer. Like, oh, again, for the Forge is reaching out, like you don't want to be that sort of company. Oh, again, they're reaching out, about some other random stuff that is of no value. So like value and what is valuable, what can we reach out about? So this month we came up with the idea, okay, what if for all the top partners that we have, what if for them only, we gotta do a proactive deliverability audit, and specifically agency partners. So they have a lot of customers and proactively reaching out and saying, hey, I would love to audit your whole instance, whether that's in Salesforce or even in another sequencer. We're going to go in and we're going to audit the whole thing for you. It's going to cost you nothing. And it's like a sounding board, where you're talking to a specialist that knows stuff about infrastructure and copywriting and everything, and will audit your all accounts, your top accounts that you care about, right? So you may have, you said 6 accounts, right? And you only care about 3, maybe, whatever, or all accounts. But like, we're going to go on audit and provide some suggestions to improve performance. And it's not like, like the Google Ads optimization team. Hey, I would like to tell you that you should optimize your Google Ads account. Here's some suggestions that are in the platform, and they're all useless, most of them, right? So I used to work at Google, it's all based on whatever. But actually getting those expensive CSMs and proactively reaching out and spending time with customers is exactly how we think about customer success, like proactively. It's not waiting for Spencer saying, oh, Frank, things are not working out. Well, did we do something proactively before that? Like, so that these bad things didn't happen? It's like, how do you tackle churn in advance? Like early on, mid, life cycle maybe, and then whatever. So you need to be doing these catch-ups with customers and proactively. And a lot of people, what they do is just get customers, they pay them a ton of money, and then barely even practically engage with them. And I think people appreciate this like valuable, like it's either an insight or an audit, whatever that is, where Spencer will be like, damn, maybe I would have paid for this, but we just keep free.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I do monthly catch-ups with my point of contact in all of our client accounts right now. It's like tomorrow's Friday, or wait, tomorrow's Thursday. On Friday, I have 4 catch-up calls because we're finished with the phase 1, and I want to, I'm working with the revenue operations team, I'm working with the marketing operations, I'm working with the AEs and the SDRs, and with some of these accounts, we're using the Forges to be able to do some cold email outbound sequencing in LinkedIn, right? They need to get trained up on the UI, but they're not the ones that sign the contract, right? At the end of the day for our services. I want to get a one-on-one perspective from the person that's running the show, the CRO, the VP of growth, VP of marketing, chief of staff, right? And this is the type of service that we like to provide too. The proactive, like, hey, like you haven't been a part of this conversation the last 2 weeks. Are you a little bit busy? Like just wanted to get your feelings on things before they bubble up. XYZ. I mean, they approved everything. I'm really happy about all of that this week. But I think proactivity goes a long way. And I think it takes a very specific type of person, like somebody that's worked in customer success, to be able to spot the nuances in the sentiment in the call and in the Slack channels. Be like, hey, maybe you're being a little bit short. You're not providing explanations for something. Maybe there's scope creep or something. But I think ultimately it comes down to human trust and interaction. And I hate to see it in the market because it still exists, unfortunately, that people just don't really give a shit.
One thing I want maybe to wrap before we wrap is just to mention about the other way we look at success. Naturally, at the Forge we have thousands of accounts, thousands of accounts. And many of them don't pay us a lot of money, below $100 a month. So there's no way to apply a CSM resource on that. So CSM resource, like humans, but very expensive, right? Very knowledgeable. Only makes sense to look after customers that actually pay you a decent amount of money, right? So this typically goes into hundreds only of accounts in a business like ours, like high velocity, etc. So, but what happens with the other accounts? How can you look after them? Like that was the challenge that we asked ourselves. How can we look after them without necessarily spending a lot of money? But there's still a lot of maybe there's good impact on retention, expansion, etc. So this is where you need to learn how to blend humans and AI agents, which is what we're all about. And we thought to ourselves, damn, we have these human CSMs, really cool. Spencer gets one of them. But what about the rest of the guys, that don't get the love necessarily from the Forge? And so we have a guy coming tomorrow that's going to demo us what we call an agent CSM solution, a solution that will look after customers, like the long tail, essentially, hundreds of them for us. So we want to test it out, right? So because the belief is like, sure, you can do nothing with them. That's option one, and spend no money on them. And then whatever happens with them, they only get chat support and nothing else. But the other way we thought was, how can we be proactive about this? Well, we can't apply humans. I can't tell my CSMs, please go and reach out to hundreds of accounts. It would be a stupid thing to do because that means less time spent with Spencer and other top accounts, right? So then the only way is to apply an agent. If you have this sort of dilemma where I can only look after this customer and because of your team constraints, whatever. Well, what could you automate again in a way that's not annoying? Whether through N8N workflows, other systems, etc. Maybe something in HubSpot, etc. It could be trigger based, but maybe it could be agentic. Right, so trigger based or agentic, right, to be actually helpful. And so yeah, we're checking out the solution tomorrow called Cust. All they do is just service customers, and if everything looks good, we're going to roll it out next month to see what is the impact. Then overall, the service levels increase across the whole book of business, and that has a much bigger impact than the impact that we're making right now just with a few hundred customers, right? So this is also to think that what I'm trying to say here is like, if you have a struggle with a resource or whatever, just think through like a trigger-based kind of automations or something else where, yes, they don't pay you a lot of money. Yes, it will be a stupid thing to even think about these accounts, but think about an agentic solution. There's a bunch of them in the markets popping up. I bet Spencer could build you one or whatever, but like in Claude Code and stuff like that, like there is a way today, which was not a case like a year ago, 2 years ago. So there's no excuse not to try and look after each and every one of your customers. I always say where there's a will, there's a way. So yeah.
Yep. Exactly. And yes, I can build you an agent. That's what we're doing for the enterprise teams. I was going to say, if you're not hiring somebody, I can build one for you on the in-house. We've had constant conversations about that lately of like, hey, like let's trigger something where the workers actually live. So it's just like something that lives for the AEs inside of Salesforce or something for the marketing or the operations team inside of Slack, right? So enablement is the name of the game, and it's the same thing on the customer side. So I think we've gotten a healthy recording here. I'm going to wrap us up. And where can people find you, Frank, other than on LinkedIn?
Well, you can find me on the website. If you go into chat, I sometimes respond on chat. People are very surprised. Otherwise, if you're going to sign up to our software, you will get a WhatsApp message from me. Spencer got one of them. You can find me in other places, but yeah, typically on LinkedIn, the guy with the bacon emoji, helping you to bring home more bacon. Yeah, typical
Nice.
place.
Cool. Frank, thanks for coming on, man. It's been great. And thank you for your insights as always. I'll catch you in our Slack channel.
Cheers.
Cheers.